Hi, I'm Bill Hurd, and this tutorial is about making computer-generated 3D images using only free software. And when I say 3D, I mean the Anaglyph style that you've probably seen in movies that use the red and blue glasses. The effect's really easy to do, and it's a lot of fun. The two pieces of software I'll be using are DAZ Studio and the Gimp. DAZ Studio is a 3D model scene layout and rendering program. It does some animating as well. And the Gimp is a very powerful image editing program that's also absolutely free. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up DAZ Studio here. What I'm loading up here is Victoria 4.2 EZ, which comes with DAZ Studio. Oh, there she is. I'm going to throw some clothes on her real quick, just so she doesn't look quite so strange running around in our 3D world. Alright, and a little bit of hair. Now you can do anything you'd like. This could be a far more complex scene, and you can manipulate the models quite a bit. You can, do all sorts of animating and posing and that sort of thing. But what I'm going to do is just use some of these simple things really quick in order to set up a scene. I'm going to throw in a prop, say this volleyball, so that we can have something that gives a little bit more depth to the scene and make the 3D stand out a bit more. Okay, so now we've got her dressed in a ball in there. I'm going to throw on a stock pose and something that's got a little bit of action. There you go, running. Okay. And let's make it look like she's coming to chase after it. Running for it. I'll put it right about there. That looks pretty good. Okay. Now the trick to doing the 3D is, now that we've got a scene, is that we want to create two cameras, one for the left eye and one for the right eye. And we'll composite them later on in the GIMP. So I'm going to start off and I'm going to create a new camera. And I'm going to call this Cam Left. Okay. And I'm just going to do it, click the button again. I'm going to create another camera. I'm going to call this Cam Right. Okay. Now, if you click over on the scene tree over here in DAZ Studio, you notice that two more cameras have been added. We've got Cam Left and Cam Right. What you want to do is take Cam Right and drag it down over the top of Cam Left. What that does is parent the two together. Now if we move Cam Left, Cam Right will move in unison. So it'll simulate your eyes being attached to your head. Here you can see the two new cameras I created. But it appears as one camera because they're both taking up exactly the same space. If we keep Cam Left selected, you notice that if you drag it, that both cameras move together. Well, you can grab Cam Right, because it's a child object, and move it over independently just a little bit. Now there are formulas for this, but I think that probably to keep it simple, basically if you move your right camera to the right, just about as far as a person's eyes would be in the scene. You can kind of use Victoria 4 there as a judge. Okay, so let's move Cam Right a little bit closer. The further apart you make the cameras, the more pronounced the 3D effect will be, but it often gets a little bit difficult for people to look at. And almost when they're looking at it with the glasses, it appears like they're looking at it cross-eyed. So you don't want to go too far. If you go too close together, the effect will be reduced and won't be very pronounced. Okay, so now we've got Cam Left and Cam Right. And again, notice that if we have Cam Left selected and we move it over, Cam Right moves with it. Alright. Now with Cam Left selected, go over to the Parameters tab in DAZ Studio, and down here, if you scroll down, you'll see Point At. What we want to do is give a point for both cameras to converge on, so it looks like a focal point in the scene. And I'm just going to pick something somewhere in the middle, and I'm going to say the hip of the shirt. So that's the shirt. I select the hip and hit Accept. Now you notice that both cameras just suddenly turned in order to face her hip. I want to do this as well with the right camera, so they're both looking at exactly the same spot. So we select the right camera in the content tree, and we go to the parameters setting and do Point At, and we'll do shirt, hip, Accept. Now they're both pointing exactly at that same spot, right in here. Okay. Now to view, to see what that looks like, there's cam left and there's cam right. Only slightly different, but it's enough for your brain to extrapolate and see in 3D. So let's go back to cam left and let's render the scene. Of course, this would look a lot better with shadows and some extra textures and things like that, but this will give you an idea of the effect really quickly. Alright, now I'm going to save last render, and let's just call this left, and I'll save it to my desktop. Alright, now let's switch to the right camera and render again. Let's save that to the desktop as well and call it right. Alright, now we're done with the building the scene and getting the render. Now we need to composite it. And so I'll minimize this and let's bring up the Gimp, the image editor with a funny name. Now with Gimp open, we can take our left camera or left image here that I saved to the desktop and just drag it up to the file menu bar, and it'll automatically open it up. Alright, now with that open, just to keep things clear, let's go over to the layers palette, and where it says background, let's rename that to left so we don't forget. Okay, we can take our right image from the desktop again and just drag it right over to the layers panel, and it'll add a second layer, and it's already named right, so we'll just leave it as it is. So now we have the right channel and the left channel. In order to make them 3D, what we need to do is select the left channel. We'll turn off the right channel just by clicking the eyeball. Select the left channel and go to Colors, Levels, and you notice up there we've got Channel, and it says Value. Drop that down to Red. And then down here on this bar that shows the has a slider, a couple of sliders, and it shows a red bar, you can either drag the right slider all the way over to the left, or you can type in this field, just type in a 0 and hit enter. Okay, so now we've got a cayenne layer there. And now we'll reactivate the right layer, and we'll do this almost the same thing. We go to Colors, we go to Levels, but this time instead of dropping down the red channel, we'll drop down the green, and we'll drop down the blue. Again, you can just type in 0 here if you prefer. Okay, so we've got a red layer for right and a cayenne layer for the left. To blend these, you could just use the opacity level, but it never quite works right. The best way to do this is to move the overlay mode to screen. And now you've got a near true color with a slight offset of red and blue. And there's your 3D image. I would recommend, when it comes to the Gimp, that you go ahead and save it as a bitmap image, because the compression on JPEG ends up reducing some of the 3D effect. Just save it as a bitmap. We'll call it 3d.bitmap and save. Alright, there is your 3D image that made only in just a few minutes using free software and free 3D models. Thanks for watching. I hope you have fun.